Alright, my name is Natasha Willis, and I want to present a historical fiction book. And when I was young, I loved to read The American Girls. So for those of you who aren't familiar with The American Girls is a collection. You may have seen the dolls. But with each doll, there's a set of like 5 to 6 books that tell a story of a girl in a different time period of American history. There's a young girl living in New Mexico. There's a girl who's dealing with post-war Civil War, and she is an escaped slave. You read of a pioneer girl. You read of the Great Depression and the World Wars, and just the impact these events have on these girls. But my favorite was Kea, and Kea was a Nez Perce Native American girl, and so I loved Kea because I'm from Idaho, and a lot of the Nez Perce history is in Idaho, and so it just really connected as I was learning about Kea and reading about her and studying my Idaho history in 4th grade. But the reason that I love Kea and I love all the American Girls is that they really do accurately reflect the time period. The author for Kea is, let me get her name right, is Miss Shaw, and she does a lot of history and uses a lot of historical terms. There's actually will be pictures which show different lifestyles. Right here you can see them setting up a teepee. She explains conflicts and resolutions that they would have had, the conflicts of neighboring rays, of fighting for food, I think there's even a forest fire, and how each of them respond to this. But there are a lot of authentic values. The Nez Perce were very spiritually, everything has a spirit, and they reverence everything. They use every ounce of material they can, and this book shows that. And it talks about how when they would skin a buffalo, how they'd even use the bladder to make balls, so that children could play with. Nothing is wasted, and the spirituality is shown throughout the way that they treat one another and the way they hunt, and you really feel that in this book. The language is pretty authentic as it can be. The author uses a lot of words that would have been used, I guess, in the more Americanized form, but you'll read of teepee, travois. The salmon, I believe, is pronounced chinook, something like that. But you're able to read actual words that their names were. The setting is very authentic. It does take place where the Nez Perce had lived, and she uses the details of a traditional day. You read of they're taking their steam baths in the morning, and all the details that go into that. The details are integrated into the story in such a way that I don't feel overwhelmed, because we can't really understand the Native American culture because it is so different from ours. But reading it, I understand their culture and what it means to me, and I gained a deeper appreciation for their beautiful culture. The setting is important because they are so connected with nature, and Kea really focuses on the nature and that role it has. But it also, in each book, because this is the collection of all of Kea's books, the setting plays a part because they are in the mountains, or they may be at the big salmon gathering where all the Nez Perce and other tribes come together for the yearly dumping of the salmon up the Snake River. Ultimately the theme of the overall books is Kea's changing world, and how Kea as a young girl has to grow and accept these changes in her life, whether it's her sister getting married or her best friend because she and her best friend are kidnapped, and her best friend doesn't immediately come back with Kea, and so her struggling with losing her best friend and forming new friendships. And so for me, Kea is a book that any girl can relate to, no matter what time period she lives in. But there's so much that you can do with this book. Because I was in 4th grade when I read this book, it actually connected with my Idaho history. And so Kea can be a great way to learn about Idaho history. Something else is that you can learn about the local Native Americans in your community. In Idaho, there's the Nez Perce historical route you can take. There's a lot of pit stops that you can go to where you can learn about the culture. I remember we saw this hill, and it talks about how this was the hill where the coyote first formed the Nez Perce. You can go to a reservation or to a powwow. You could, depending on where you live, they sometimes have stores that sell Native American goods, so you could buy Native American goods. You could even learn to make Native American goods, to make a drum. You could learn to make a dress. You could watch different movies. There are some really good movies about Native Americans. You can listen to Native American music, which you can find on YouTube. But those are just some ideas. But you can use any of the American Girls, any of their dolls or their stories to help supplement your child's learning. Maybe even finding one that's more applicable to where you are in the U.S. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.